Greetings, cult-worshipping, following type people. I am Patrick Smith. Welcome back to Disenthrall. Today is going to be kind of a mega show. I have so much stuff on my list to talk to you guys about today that we might not even get to it all. I don't know. We're going to see how it goes. Or it could go really fast and it'll be over in 5 minutes. We'll see how it goes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am excited to do this show. It's been a week and a half, something like that, since our last live stream. A couple important things that I would like people to be aware of for this particular live stream is that, let me make sure we're live here. We're live, hopefully. Yes, good. Okay, so first of all, I want to shout out to our supporters. Because we use all these different supporter platforms, Patreon, Bitbacker, Subscribestar, and direct PayPal and direct cryptocurrency, it's easy for me to like forget how many people are actually contributing. So I want to thank everybody that is doing so. And before I do, let me just make sure. Are we coming through okay? Hey, Rika, give me another wave in the chat if you're seeing us. Okay, cool. Mega show. Yes. Okay. So, a quick shout out to our supporters: Chris, Michelle, BD, Henry, Kelby, Sam, Eric, Brock, Phobia, Arv, Will, Cabo, and Peaceful Easy Feeling. Quick note to Peaceful Easy Feeling. You're one of our top level supporters. If you will, reach out to us through any of the communication mediums available, and so that we can talk with you, because as a top level supporter, you know, you've got some perks that I'd like to make sure that we provide for you. So that is that. Okay. Second thing I wanted to mention as we kick off the stream is that we have set up Streamlabs donations for the stream, because last time we had a supporter do a massive donation on YouTube's super chat. YouTube literally got like 2 steak dinners out of the donation to our channel instead of us getting the full amount. They get like 30% of the super chat. So while that's still an option for you guys, you can definitely still do the super chat if that's what you want to do. Check out the Streamlabs option that we have available. There's 2 ways to get to it. The link in the description of this video, disenthrall.me/platforms, has a link on it to Streamlabs. You can click that link and it'll take you, oh, I have this. Hold on. Here we go. So this is our disenthrall.me/platforms. It's got a Streamlabs link on there that will take you, actually this shows all the platforms that we publish to if you want to follow us there, but it'll take you to our Streamlabs page where you can send fiat, and I think you can use credit card or PayPal to do that, and then a notification will hopefully pop up in the stream and we'll get to see whatever message that you leave for us. So there is that. The last housekeeping thing that I want to go over before we get on with the actual content is like a call for volunteers. So as we grow, there's only so much that I have time for, and there's only so much time that Kaysen has to contribute. For instance, like today, it's just me running, spinning all the plates here myself, dividing my brain in half, and philosophizing with one and running this all the equipment. Anyway, so I'd like to put out a call for volunteers. There's 3 things. Oh, hey, look at that! Streamlabs just caught up. Call for volunteers. 3 kinds of volunteers. Number 1, I'd like to get a sort of scheduler, administrative type person. This is unpaid for right now, but if in the future, if the channel blows up or whatever, and we get hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever, I'd love to be able to pay people, but we're not there yet. I'd like to get an administrative type person that can donate a little bit of time to help us schedule guests, to reach out to all the guests that have, that we can set up all these wonderful interviews in the world. That stuff takes time. It takes time to track them down. It takes time to reach out to them, most of the time, multiple times, get them on a calendar, stuff like that. If you have some time and you want to help the channel out in that way, we've got a long list of guests that we'd like to have on the platform to bring to you guys. I could really use some help in that area. The second area is just general producing of content. Going out, finding content that you think is important, that you think our audience would enjoy hearing about, and kind of working with us to produce and develop that content into something that I can quickly bring to the viewers. This will allow me to put out more content, because right now I'm pretty much producing everything that you're going to see here today. Then the last thing is kind of, I just want to renew the general offer to the voluntarist world out there. That is to say, Disenthrall is a platform. This is not just my castle where you only hear from Patrick. This is a platform where we invite other people to contribute. And not only that, but to a certain extent, to the extent that we have time and capability, we will help you with the technology and with the things that you need to bring your content to the world. So if you feel like you have some good voluntarist, anarcho-capitalist, freedom content that you'd like to bring to the world, and you'd like a platform to do that, or need some assistance in some areas to do that, let us know. Maybe you're a good fit for this channel. We pretty much have one rule at this point, and it's a hard rule, and we don't compromise on this rule, but whatever content that you would like to contribute must be 100% non-aggression principle compliant. Yeah, no advocating borders, no blah, blah, blah. So you get the idea. That concludes the call for volunteers. See, this is moving a lot faster than I thought it would. Okay. Whew. So, you can already see the first story that I wanted to talk about. No, we're not doing this one first. This is my show, I can do what I want. The first thing I want to talk about is something that I almost forgot that I wanted to do a show on. But it came up recently again in a conversation about something totally unrelated, and this was a great use case for describing a problem. A problem on both sides of a specific issue. A problem that I just actually kind of mentioned when I was talking about Disenthrall being a platform for contributors with our, rule of non-aggression principle compliant content. So, a while back, oh snap! Hey, got a new follow. Thanks for the follow, Mateo. A while back, we had... I saw this story come by, and I see stories from libertarian platforms. I follow many of them often, just to kind of keep an eye on what everybody's doing and stay aware of what's happening. And I saw there's this platform called We Are Libertarians, and they have a ton of content all over the place. And then I see this: they publish a communist on their platform. And it's important to point out, before I criticize, I'm not telling somebody what they can and can't do. But if you do something retarded, I can call you out on it, and I can shame you for it. And they did. They allowed an outright commie, a libertarian socialist, to straight up publish a manifesto to their website under the name We Are Libertarians. So that now anybody in the world going forward that looks up, well, let's find out about these libertarians. Oh, here's a platform called We Are Libertarians. Oh, look, a communist. Okay, so communism is part of the set of beliefs that they might now think are libertarian. And so, the extent of what I said and did, because the Libertarian Party is such a dumpster fire, that I've just come to expect this stuff. This is part and parcel. This is nothing new. This was not surprising. This was not triggering. This was just another thing in a long list of things. Like, Kokesh just put out another video, the second video I've seen on his channel, where he supports a socialist in the Libertarian Party. So it's nothing new, nothing surprising, certainly not triggering. But all I did was I posted to the Disenthrall platform, my personal page. Hey, here's a screenshot of this We Are Libertarians page publishing communist content. I said, We Are Libertarians, everybody. Standards fit only for politics. That's all I said. That was it. I basically shamed their standards because saying that they're libertarians, representing libertarians, the libertarian label to the world. They're publishing communists. That's it. Just, hey, look at that. That's dumb. They have low standards. A little bit of shaming. That's all. No big deal. And, boy, they said I was triggered. But I'm not sure I was the triggered one. Let's look. This is one of the head guys, owners, runners, operators, whatever, for We Are Libertarians. Hey, Patrick Smith, I'm going to share your behavior with my audience Tuesday. 10,000 listeners an episode. Good luck responding with your 2,100 likes, bruh. Get the first issue of WoW Reader that has triggered the hell out of a cultist libertarian. Poor snowflake Patrick Smith must have skipped the part in our principles. Principles. Where the We Are Libertarian podcast stands for serving our readers by treating them as adults. We present a wide range of opinion and let you decide what is right or wrong. People like Patrick want to control what you think and discuss. You should be aware that this thought nanny runs a media company, Disenthrall. Make sure it's not propaganda before you consume any of their content. Cultist libertarian, snowflake, thought fascist propagandist. I'm the triggered one. I'm the triggered one. And he made good on his promise. In one of his follow-on podcasts, he felt the need to mention me.
But in the first issue, Ryan allowed a libertarian socialist to basically write a what is a libsoc, basically. So you hear more and more about this, and so I think people don't really have an understanding of what a libertarian socialist means. And so one of principle number 6 of ours is intellectual diversity here at We Are Libertarians, and he decided to give them a platform, which one guy this Patrick guy just went off the rails about, calling us all communist. And it's so funny that in a podcast with 555 episodes in our...
I called them all communists. Did you see that anywhere? I defy anyone to provide the source for that. It's just another example of the high standards over there at their publication, which was the entire beginning and end of my point of my post about their platform. They have low standards. Anyone that calls themselves libertarian, they will allow to publish any amount of sewage on their platform. Kind of dumb. Now, here's the point. This is the reason why it's worth taking time out of my day and giving them a little of my attention span to call people out when they do this stuff. There is a difference between bringing dissenting, opposing opinions on your platform for a debate or a discussion, point, counterpoint, for a chat about it, and outright handing the keys to your publication to someone with views that are antithetical to the name of your publication. Now, it would be different if the name of the publication was like the New York Times or, you know, I don't know, whatever. The newspaper, the News Corp newspaper. Just where you're supposed to be kind of like an open book, an open door publication, allowing, you know, whatever content interests any readers on your platform. You're basically saying up front that, you know, we don't have any standards other than news, and so who knows what you're going to get here. That's not these people. These people take the name libertarian, claim the name, say that they are libertarians, and then hand the keys to their publication to a communist. Not point, counterpoint, not debate, not here's what the commies say and here's why they're wrong, not even having an actual libertarian interview the person. Just handing him the keys. Right, whatever you want, we'll publish it under the name We Are Libertarians, and then hit our fainting couches and take time in our podcast that only has 117 views that didn't he say like 2,000 or 10,000 or something? Anyway, that is beside the point. The point is there's a difference between exposing your audience to ideas and handing the keys of your platform to somebody. That was the difference. That's why I pointed it out. because if we don't point out when people misuse the libertarian label, the voluntarist label, the anarcho-capitalist label, if we don't point it out, then that's how these labels that we use lose their resolution. They become watered down and meaningless, like has happened to so many other labels everywhere all the time. So that is I actually put that at the end, but I wanted to talk about it first because it was fired up. Let me check your comments here. Patrick, the cultist snowflake. Yes. You know, if I'm the cultist, what does that make all of you? I don't know. This is kind of weird and creepy. You can't even really respond to much of that, just to kind of chuckle at how hard they were triggered, right? I mean, we called them out on their low standards. They felt embarrassed, as they should have felt. And that was the end of that. Okay. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programs. I wanted to point this thing out. This is a thing that Google announced they were going to do earlier in the year around January. This was a modification to their Chrome browser that I think 2 billion people, I'm pretty sure that's the actual number, not an exaggeration, 2 billion people use Chrome in the world. They are rolling, now the corporate speak is thick, they are rolling out an update, new version of their Manifest API, which will allow people developing extensions for browsers, you know, additional features and new efficiencies and all this good stuff. And it's just great news. Oh, by the way, we're also removing the ability to block ads from Chrome extensions. And I wasn't going to mention this story, but then I realized, like, you know, not all of our viewers will be aware of all of this. But back in January, they announced this change. A lot of people, as you can definitely predict, threw a fit. A lot of people, extension developers, all the popular adblock extension developers objected. And then the reason why I'm bringing this story up today is because in May, about a month ago, we got an update from Simone Vincent, an actual Google employee, to give us an update. And it's kind of a long update, but the poignant phrase is right here. Observation. Observation is where you watch what the browser's doing and have the capability to block connections to things like ads from an extension. And I don't want to get too technical here, but it's pretty simple. Chrome is deprecating the blocking capabilities of the web request API in Manifest v3, not the entire web request API, though blocking will still be available to enterprise deployments. Extensions can still observe requests, but that's it, basically. So that is like corporate techie speak for we're getting rid of ad blocking. Suck it. And if you're an enterprise customer, so if you have like a Google Apps account that maybe your corporation has or whatever, and you know your company runs its email through the G Suite apps, which is like, you know, you can get the Gmail interface and all the Google apps for your company under your company's domain name and all that stuff. If you have that, we'll allow you to keep using extensions that block ads. But if you're just straight Chrome, nope, sorry. And we're not even going to outright say that. In fact, we're going to contradict ourselves because we say an update on 5.30, which I believe was right after, yeah, this was May 24th. So an update on the story on May 30th was that Chrome says, a Google spokesperson says that Chrome supports the use and development of ad blockers. We're actively working with the developer community to get feedback and iterate on the design of a privacy-preserving content filtering system that limits the amount of sensitive browser data shared with third parties. They're going to get rid of ad blocking, and this saying that they support the use and development of ad blockers, you just watch. You just watch. This is a meaningless PR statement. They're going to break ad blocking. So I reached out to Gab to see what he was planning on doing it, because the Disenthrall browser, which you're seeing in use here and which I've been using now for several weeks with absolutely zero problems. By the way, if you're not using the Disenthrall browser, I would definitely put my stamp of approval and recommendation on it at this point. Disenthrall is a fork of the Brave browser, which is a fork of Chrome, which is a fork of Chromium. And so the Chrome browser is the big one that everybody uses. Hopefully the changes will stay there and will not roll down to Brave and to Gab's Dissenter. I reached out to Gab to ask him how he was going to handle this. I have not yet gotten a response from him. If I do, I will update you guys. So that is that story. Now, moving on. We are not going to do a deep dive into vaccinations today. We're going to discuss a story that's tangential to it that just happened in New York. This is from Zero Hedge. A friend sent this to me. Thank you, friend. The story is Orthodox Jews threaten motherfucker. Oh, crap. Oh, well, demonetization. I am so sick of censoring myself. Let me tell you, like, I've been using, this is a side note. I spent some time on BitChute recently, like actually subscribing to a lot of the channels that I'm used to watching on YouTube and browsing around on BitChute and just trying to see if it would fit me as something that I could use more than YouTube so that I could get away from YouTube. And that was cool. Like, there's not many content creators that are mirroring their content over there yet. We are one, by the way. Disenthrall.me/platforms if you want to find our link to our BitChute account. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. The thing that was really mind-blowing over there, it was like an epiphany. It was a sudden realization to like the nature of something that I had not been aware of previously. If you surf around on BitChute for any amount of time, especially if you turn the content filter down to where you can see the content that is the full content that is available on BitChute, and if you start even if you don't watch the crazy content, even if you just subscribe or look at some of the content of some of the people that have gotten kicked off of all of some of the other major platforms for most of the time innocuous reasons. The people that no longer publish to or care about YouTube monetization or getting kicked off of YouTube because they already have, they're free in a way that we're not used to watching and we're not used to experiencing. They're using language and they're talking in ways that is fearless and uncensored. And certainly in some ways raw and, it's going to offend some people. But the realization that I came to, the epiphany that I had, was that I hadn't noticed that I had lost that content. I hadn't noticed that content had just slowly faded away over the past 10 years as I've gotten used to going to YouTube for all of my content. Yes, Richard, I agree. I think it's an excellent phrase. So, the thing, like, I pay attention to when I'm being manipulated. I watch out for being manipulated. I'm not oblivious. I think I'm self-aware, and I catch it when it's happening. But this one slipped by, and it caught me off guard, and it hit me in the face when I was watching BitChute, and I was watching some content that I would never have been able to see on YouTube. And I was like, I guess my first reaction was, wow, Zekumaro TV donated. Thank you for the donation. It is also great to see that the other donation page is functioning. I appreciate your donation. Thank you, sir. The first feeling I had was like kind of like a relief. Like, oh, wow, this is what it's like to be free in this area, free in my media consumption. This is what it's like to get the content from the creators that I want in the way that they want to give it to me, not in the way that Google wants them to give it to me. And then the second one was like, this was the self-awareness kicked back in, and the self-awareness made me realize that, thank you, Rika, I like that GIF too, was the self-awareness kind of made me realize that I didn't catch this happening to me. I didn't realize, I didn't feel the Jim Jesus. What's up, man? Thank you for your service. Good to see you, man. Thank you for the $2. I appreciate it. The thing that freaked me out was that I didn't see it happening when Google was doing it to me. Google has limited the content that we're all used to seeing, and we don't see it because it's subtle, because the content creators that we think are giving us their content in the way they want the content given to us is being subtly changed to be allowed by Google to give us that content. And I knew, I mean, like, if you'd asked me before if I thought that was happening, I'd be like, yeah, sure, it's probably happening. I think I'm aware of it, but I'm telling you, no. Just go to BitChute.com, surf around, listen to some of the creators. Whether you agree with them or not doesn't matter. That's not the point of the story that I wanted to talk. That's not the point of what I wanted to say here. The point is, I want you to experience hearing somebody say something that isn't approved by Google, that Google wouldn't approve. It's a powerful feeling. It's an important feeling. It's just go do it. If you haven't spent time on BitChute, please go do it. Thank you again, Jim Jesus. I appreciate it. Okay. Now, back to this story. So, again, we're not going to get into the vaccination debate either way today, other than to talk about what happens when the state tries to force something on us. So here's the story. This is in New York. A group of anti-vaccination activists, including Orthodox Jews, fumed on Friday after the New York State Legislature passed a bill that will eliminate religious exemptions as a valid excuse not to vaccinate children, according to the New York Post. Hours later, the bill was signed into law by Governor Cuomo. The New York State Legislature and Governor Cuomo signed a bill into law that eliminates religious exemptions as a valid excuse not to vaccinate children. The language is so mirror world. Let me try and reconstruct it with actual straightforwardness. Governor and legislature passes law. There's so many ways to say this. Demanding that you let them inject chemicals into your children. And unless a doctor says that you don't have to let them. So basically, if it can't be religious anymore, it can't be personally, strongly, closely held beliefs anymore. It can't be, self-autonomy, self-ownership. It can't be, personal ethics. It can't be private property. It can't be, I own this body and I get to choose what happens to it. That's all gone. Basically, you got to find a doctor now. And if the doctor doesn't give you your freedom pass, if the doctor doesn't give you your hall pass, the government is going to be able to force that stuff on your children. Get out of New York. That's like the subtitle of this whole thing. It's insane. Okay, let's read on. I'm sorry, I was reading comments. As a group of, shouting from the gallery, one man dressed in traditional Orthodox Jewish attire threatened, "We'll be back for you, Jeffrey," referring to the bill's sponsor, Jeffrey Danowitz. It was kind of quiet. I hope you guys could hear that. He was like, "We'll be back for you, Jeffrey." Another protester shouted, "Motherfucker," that wonderful word appears again, along with other profanities. That's why I brought up BitChute, because I am tired of worrying about Google and YouTube and what I say. Like, now that I see BitChute, like, I want to be able to express myself freely and play the music that I want to play and talk about and what I want to talk about and say the words that I want to say without worrying about Google and the massive monstrosity that it is. And I was trying to figure out how to do that. Like, all the eyeballs are on YouTube. Like, most of you guys are watching on YouTube. You can't stream to BitChute yet. So we don't have good places yet. Anyway, I'm digressing again. Ugh. It's just frustrating. Another protester shouted "motherfucker" along with other profanities. Rika says, "Oh man, Patrick, you should do an interview with Del Bigtree." Yeah. Drop me a line privately. We'll work on that. Okay, so opponents of the legislation ending non-medical exemptions for vaccination shouting from the State Assembly gallery, "Shame!" and other profanities. Quote, "The government does not have the right to interfere with my personal religious beliefs," said one woman, quoted by WLNY, who added that, quote, "We will not vaccinate. What's going to happen is we're going to either homeschool or we're going to move out of state." She probably should have done that already. Dinowitz felt that his safety, Dinowitz is the sponsor of the bill, right? Yes, Dinowitz is the sponsor of the bill, felt that his safety was at risk following the vote. Quote, "I'm sure the hallways are very dangerous for me right now," said Dinowitz after the display. "I think it's very sad that people who are up here in the name of religion were acting anything but. Judging by the way some people behaved, and judging by the threats that we heard from some people, it would be prudent to exercise some caution. The bill was never about religion," Dinowitz added. "It was about public health. As I said on the floor, it's going to protect children's health, and we'll never know which children don't catch a terrible disease, but we'll know for this bill it will protect children." Then Governor Cuomo said some stuff about the science being crystal clear that we're not going to talk about right now. This is my statist cup for the day. Please forgive me. It's just huge. You can't really tell how large this cup is. It's a massive cup, okay? That's why I'm using it, not because it's got a Texas flag on it. I think my mom gave me this. Thanks, Mom. We're going to skip all the stuff on vaccinations and get to the point. "I don't ever remember," said Dinowitz, quote, "I don't ever remember in all my years here the screaming in the assembly chamber and the disruption in the assembly chamber. People yell and scream outside, and that's fine. That's fine. But the disrespect, not to me, forget me, to the institution, to all the members of the state, was frankly a disgrace," said Dinowitz. "And these are the religious people? Shame on them. Shame on them." So that's the point I wanted to make. That's the thing I wanted to talk about. The contempt and surprise and shock of these lawmakers as they exert government control over people's personal medical decisions, as they inflict themselves and their will and their opinions on people's bodies against their consent. And then when the people don't lay down, roll over on their backs, prostrate themselves, and thank them for protecting them. When the people push back and say, "No, you motherfucker," in this case, we're gonna get you later, is what they said. Stuff like that. The surprise and the shock and awe. These people really think that they should be able to write magic spells, to scribble on paper, forcibly control people's lives, and then have their institution respected. I mean, you got to be pretty ignorant. You got to be pretty ignorant. What do you think happens the more involuntary, non-consensual control that they exert over people's lives? How far do they expect the respect? How far do they expect the respect for their institution to stretch? And when they start seeing stuff like this happen, are they seeing it as, I mean, I know he's saying, the halls are probably not terribly safe for me right now. But I wonder if he factors, if he's just saying that to play to the news and to make a story out of it and to virtue signal his victim status. Or I wonder if he really knows that if he pushes it far enough, that people are not going to put up with an infinite amount of involuntary, coercive, non-consensual control over their lives and bodies. And if it comes to it, how do you think the people are going to put a stop to it? Dinowitz? I'm going to leave that as a ... because we're not on BitChute today. Okay. So that's that story. Wanted to share it with you. It's shocking. It's shocking to them when people don't defer to their authority. Okay. All right. This next one's interesting. I got a lot of tabs today, guys. A lot of tabs, a lot of Facebook stuff today. It's kind of interesting. We might have a special guest. Okay, nope. No special guest today. Damn. All right. So, today, a few days ago, this is in the Texas Libertarians Libertarian Edition Facebook group, which is juxtaposed to the Texas Libertarian Republican Edition group, which is, called Texas Libertarians. There's some interesting discussions that happen. E.G.
What are your thoughts on promoting wealth creation skills among and to
what?
voluntarists, entrepreneurship, business, etc., to increase our resources as a peaceful community, as opposed to using our time to polish our knowledge of philosophy? All the best. P.F.
Holy crap, dude. Damn, $100 just dumping the cash on the table with a little note and walking away. Dude, you're a rock star. Thank you so much. So we're going to put this story on hold for a moment. And we're going to answer EG's question. EG, what are your thoughts on promoting wealth creation skills among and to voluntarists, entrepreneurship, business, etc., to increase our resources as a peaceful community, as opposed to using our time to polish our knowledge of philosophy? All the best, PEF. Ooh, that's an interesting question. As opposed to using our time to polish our knowledge of philosophy. Is it one or the other? Or does our knowledge and understanding of philosophy inform our understanding of the relationships in our businesses and in our business life and in our professional life? I know, and I wish I had my old partner on Disenthrall, Ryan, here, because he actually worked with me in a startup company, and this would be a fantastic conversation that maybe we should bring him on for. So he's actually worked with me in this situation, and he is one of the few people that has experienced having a boss that is familiar, that is a voluntarist, like a boss. And actually, we have another business corporate user submission question coming up later where we'll talk about this again. But Ryan can give you firsthand experience what it's like to have a boss that is a voluntarist, that is a principled person, that understands that the corporate structure, the corporate hierarchy, and more on this later. We'll probably skip to that story now, actually, because it dovetails in here. But there is no corporate hierarchy in the traditionally understood sense of hierarchy, meaning an involuntary one built on control, like your consent is not involved hierarchy. That has nothing to do with the free market capitalistic organizational structure in a business, a hierarchical structure in business. It's a voluntary one. A voluntary hierarchy is kind of another way of saying it's a flat hierarchy. It's a hierarchy with no involuntary coercion. And while you may have a boss that decides the direction of the effort and labor of the employees that are under him in the hierarchy, every single person involved is free to walk away at any time. Understanding that principle changes entirely how you interact with your employees and how you interact with your bosses in a company. And having been an employee, of course, in my life at one point, and having been a boss with the understanding of the philosophy and the voluntarism, completely changed all of my business relationships. Both the business relationships with the people in my company and the business relationships with the people between interbusiness, B2B, the business-to-business relationships. Like when I was negotiating with another business to enter into an arrangement with our business, an understanding of private property, an understanding of autonomy and rights and ethics and ownership and everyone's ability to not, everyone's right to not be coerced and controlled. And everyone's right to do as they please as long as it's peaceful. It informs everything. It changes all of my relationships. In fact, it improves them infinitely because I can be honest with everyone involved. I can be like, I am so appreciative that you're here, working as my employee, because I know you don't have to be, and I know that I'm competing in the labor market for your attention, and I respect the people that enter into agreements with me as employees, and I respect the people that enter into business arrangements with me as B2B arrangements. And such a big topic. I think you need, you don't need the crazy first principle philosophy nerd level understanding of this stuff, but certainly like the entry level version definitely helps and definitely changes everything. And let me tell you, when you have like a boss employee relationship and both people are voluntarists, it's magical. It's because you both know that at the end of the day, you're both there voluntarily. It's more of a partnership. The hierarchy that most people feel is involuntary kind of fades away. Like, if you're there as an employee, you have to understand that you're both at the bargaining table as equals. You have one guy that has resources and a need to get some job done, and you have somebody else that has the skills to do the job and needs resources. And you got to come together, and you got to push and pull, and you have to respect the push and pull, and enjoy the push and pull of that negotiation. And then once you meet an arrangement, but once you meet and agree and form that employment relationship, it's so awesome because you're both winning, and the harder both of you work, the more both of you win. All of that's informed by the knowledge of the philosophy and rights and stuff. So to a certain degree, I guess it is opposed, because you can spend a lot of time on philosophy. There's so much philosophy. There's so much bad philosophy out there that, yeah, I could definitely see you could waste your time. Now, that said, most voluntarists and strangely enough, most anarcho-capitalists are pretty ill-informed on business and entrepreneurship and how this stuff actually functions practically, pragmatically, day to day, how to be a good businessman, how to be a good employee, how to compete in labor markets, how to compete in the market for sales and all this stuff. I really would love to see more mentoring, honestly. I think that would be a great thing. And to a certain extent, like, once you got the baseline philosophy and the good understanding of the base stuff, I would like to see a lot more people getting really good in business. Like, the anarcho-capitalistic, principled business owners are like rock stars. Like, they excel so quickly, and it's so fun to see, and, you'd love to work for these people. Very inspirational. How is that, E.G.? Let's see, he says, there are communities like the Jewish that do some of this. They help each other get more resourceful. Why not do the same based on the fact that we share the nap rather than an irrational belief? Dude, spot on. Spot on. That sounds like a fantastic project. Like the mentoring thing I was talking about sounds great. Eric Bros explores intentional communities on his channel, The Conscious Resistance. I need to have him on sometime to describe that to me. I can't tell if it's... it feels hippie to me. It feels too hippie to me, but maybe I'm sure there's some good stuff in there that I would benefit from learning. Okay, dude. Thanks again, EG. That was a massive donation, massive support. Thank you so much. Okay, let's whip this back out. Okay, I want to talk about secessionists next. Secessionists. Now, if you live outside of Texas, I have no idea if this is a thing where you live. Texas Cup again. Excuse me. If you live outside of Texas, I have no idea. This could be a uniquely Texas thing, and I would believe it if it was. But there is a secessionist movement in Texas that is pretty strong. Yeah, Rika, like, this is where I need help kind of getting people in schedule. I need somebody, an administrative type person, to help me like get and schedule more interviews. I just run out of time. It takes a lot of time. So there is a Texas secessionist movement in this state, and I've never, like I've always like felt like, yeah, like I'm born and raised here, and you're given like this pride of the state of Texas that exceeds even the pride that most people have for the United States of America. Like, Texans really feel special, and Texas feels like a special place. And to a certain degree, I think there's some truth to that. This is not a normal state like so many other states in the country. There's something special here, and I'm leery to say that too much, because I'm not sure to the degree, like what degree I'm just, speaking from indoctrination, or that it might actually really be a little bit different here. I kind of think it's probably a little bit of both. But as far as the secessionist movement, like, it feeds and feels great to that side of me that's like, raw, Texas is awesome. Texas needs to get away from the communist states of America, But if I back up and divest myself from the statist pride of Texas, I can think and I can see, like, it might be terrifying. It might be really bad, because there's a lot of religious fascism. I'm using that word. Like, there's like the traditional fascism, which means Nazis, right? But then there's like fascism, which just means people that want to control and govern how you live your life in an area. And that's what I mean by fascism. Like, there's a strong religious, this is how people need to behave. These are the things that you shouldn't do or say. And we don't see any problem whatsoever with legislating our religious and personal beliefs into law. And I'm pretty sure that, to some degree, the federal government's control over Texas keeps that in check. And so if Texas were to secede, I fear the influence, the unleashed influence of the far right on the state of Texas legislature and control. And so while generally I'm like in favor of, any kind of, division where, government gets smaller and closer to the people, but it's not without risks, is what I'm saying. The localization thing comes with its own risks, especially in, I'm sure that there would be, an equal amount of fear with California. I'm sure to some extent, somehow, some way, California's insane Marxism is kept in check by the influence of the federal government. And so if they were to secede, I'm pretty sure they would just like instantly self-combust in flaming communist flags before sinking into the ocean and turning it blood commie red. Anyway, so this was an interesting thread that I just wanted to briefly touch on, talking about who wants Texas to secede in the Libertarian Party, in the Libertarian Party group. And there's this dude, I don't want to go into him personally, but he is always an advocate for the secession, because and he's in with this group, an Independent Texas, that has a lot of ideas on how it's going to be governed after Texas secedes. And there are multiples of these groups, so I'm not speaking about all Texas secessionists. Though I will say, I have invited at least, not exaggerating, 6 different secessionist types, sovereign citizen types on this show to talk through what they actually believe. And the number of them that have ever had the balls to come on and actually back up the crap that they talk on social media is 0. But this is a quick view into why that stuff can be pretty scary. So they're talking about seceding, and this guy says, I agree, but I will add that in order to control Austin is the liberal cancer on Texas's ass. He says, I will add that in order to control Austin, Christians will need to revitalize the Texas militia. So like red flags are just sorry. Red flags are just fired off all over the place in my head as I read this. And he says somebody else says non-Christians would be unwelcome. And he says, nope, liberty is not free for anyone living in an independent Texas. Most every able-bodied male, say 16 to 60, will serve. Women can serve as non-combatants. COs will be taken into consideration. Quote, if the people don't like how a particular state operates, they can move to another one where they do. Oh my God! This guy calls himself a libertarian, and he uses the line that so many use when you start talking about libertarian principle. Kelby in with the hot take response. Kelby's a supporter of this show, by the way. He says, come and make me serve in your stupid gang. Anyway, so I wanted to point this out because if you got rid of the current central control without first convincing enough of the people of voluntarism, of self-ownership, the non-aggression principle, live and let live, if you haven't convinced enough people, changed enough hearts and minds yet, Texas could become a very, very scary place, as evidenced by this guy who's one of the big promoters of secession in Texas. And if any of you out there that are watching the show, because I know some of you watch the show, come on the show. I challenge you. If you think that you have a way to achieve freedom using the state government, using a new state government, using different magic spells on different pieces of Constitution paper, I challenge you and I invite you to come on the show for a polite debate/conversation. I want to hear about your ideas and I want to challenge you on them. Because I think one or both of us will learn something from that conversation. So if you know anybody, send them my invite. Tell them to inbox me. We'll get it done. Okay. Yes, Rika. He said to control Austin. Where is it? I will add, in order to control Austin, Christians will need to revitalize the militia. So Austin will need to be controlled. Woo! Woo! Libertarian. Libertarian. All right. Yeah. Christians can be a little fascist, can't they? Okay. This one's neat. This is like a state of technology update, mixed with a call to action to keep it interesting, and a little bit of personal information about my daughter. So they have recently found an enzyme that can convert, I think, most types of blood that is donated into the universal donor blood. This is like monumental watershed moment in the history of time stuff, because there is in many areas for many blood types a very close to becoming severe shortage of blood. And I've never really been one to go out of my way to donate blood. And I think that's most people. And I think there's only a very small number of people that actually think about it, consider it, and take time out of their life to go and donate blood. Donate or sell, however it works. But this is huge. Because if this is true, let's just read it. So, let's see. Blood transfusion is an indispensable part of the healthcare system. The blood used must be carefully matched, since transfusion with mismatched blood types can lead to fatal consequences. However, this can be problematic in emergency situations where there is no time for blood matching. In that case, the use of universal donor blood type O is essential, but supply of type O blood is often short. Enzymes can be used to convert A and B type red blood cells into O type, broadening the supply. However, the enzymes available to date have not worked very well on whole blood. Thus, new enzymes are needed. In recent years, the research community has started to realize the importance of the human microbiome. Basically, they found some enzymes in the human gut that allows them to basically magically almost make most blood types, I believe, yes, into universal donor type O stuff. So very soon, hopefully, this is an exciting state of technology update. Anyone will be able to donate blood and help everyone, which is huge, which is amazing, right? Okay, here's the personal update. I asked my wife today, because she had mentioned this a while back on her personal Facebook page. She was asking people to donate. And I'm like, oh, wow, you're asking people. I have, thus far on this channel, I'm a pretty private guy with this stuff, and I don't talk about it very often, or very in detail. And I've really shied away from asking for any kind of donations and asking for any kind of charity from anybody until it is an absolute necessity on my part. And if that time comes soon, then it will be what it is when we get there. But my wife posted asking people to donate blood, and I was talking to her about it. And she told me today, when I asked her for an update, that my daughter Dagny has had 16 blood and platelet transfusions over the past year. 16 times, you know, the treatment process has effectively destroyed her blood to the point, in an effort to kill the leukemia, has harmed her blood to the point where she's needed transfusions from donors 16 times. And then I also heard about, there's some other children, you know, we've been doing this for a year. You meet other parents that have children in the exact same situation with the exact same disease, and you talk to them. And we realize that, you know, some of these children have rarer blood types. And so when they need donations, sometimes they're really close to not being able to get them because there's a shortage. And that is an entire layer of dread that we never had to experience, luckily, thanks to my daughter's blood type. So I just thought it would be cool. And I thought it would be refreshing and awesome of us to at least attempt to like match the blood donations that my daughter has needed and used. And so I would like to like make a challenge to myself and to you guys and to the Disenthrall audience to let's get to like, let's call it 20, because I think by the time she's done, let's call it an even 20. Can we get 20 blood donations wherever you are, where you live? I don't care. I would just like to say that we have not only matched what we have used and taken, but we have given more. We have done more. So I would just like to ask and request and challenge you to take a little bit of time out of your day, go donate blood to save people's lives. It literally saves people's lives. I can't imagine being in that situation and having my kid need blood to survive and just them literally saying, oh, sorry, we don't have that. Wow. I would just like to make that request. And if you do, please drop me like a private note just to say that you did so that I can keep count of the donations that we've done. I'm definitely going to do it myself, probably more than once. I would just love to be able to say that we have done this. We've made it to 20. So that's my call to action for this episode. Thank you guys if you choose to do that. And I'll do an update video once we get some feedback and some traction on that. Oh, Mr. Annixon says don't donate blood. Why not? Why not? I look forward to hearing what you say. Okay. Moving right along. More Facebook fun. So I made a post. This is another, I do these call to actions all the time because people will talk all sorts of crap on social media. They'll come at you with all these opinions and all these positions. And then when you actually challenge them to actually debate and get out from behind their keyboards, they evaporate. And I'm not saying that, and that's not an accusation towards the guy I'm about to respond to here. I'm just saying, because he may not have seen my invitation yet. But I put out these call to action. I put out these requests for contenders, let's say. And if you guys know anybody that disagrees with the statement that I posted today, all taxation is theft by extortion. If you disagree, you get to cut the line and come on the show for a chat. Inbox me and tag people that you need to hear it. So I put that out and I got a response. It was a text Facebook response that I then responded by inviting him on the show. Have not got a response back. I hope he comes on the show to have this discussion. It would be a fantastic discussion that I would love to have. I think it would be fun and informative for everybody involved because I've had the reason why I don't like Facebook. I don't participate in Facebook debates much anymore, guys. Everybody pounds their keyboards for hours, and then at the end, everybody just walks away butthurt and angry, and nobody's changed their position, and it's just such a waste of time. And so very quickly, what I do lately is I just say, hey, this sounds like an opportunity for an intelligent, awesome conversation. Please join me on voice chat. Join our Discord server so that we can talk about it, even if it's not broadcasted, even if it's not live or shown to anyone other than you and me. Let's just take it off of Facebook. Let's take it off of text keyboard pounding land and see if we can get somewhere. And, well, that didn't happen here. But I figured I would at least respond to what he says, because a lot of people, especially in the Libertarian Party, hold this position that you see this guy taking here on taxes. He says, my proposition that all taxation is theft, he says, you would be incorrect. Sales tax, for instance, is a choice. If you are hardworking and self-sufficient, you can bypass going to a store most of the time, depending on that level of self-sufficiency. Income tax, you signed up. You signed the contract. It was your choice. Me? I haven't paid into such a system when it comes to income taxes since 2004. I do not produce an income under law. No men with guns, no problem. Property taxes. I've heard a lot of success, and I've also heard a lot of failure. I pay my little $400 tax a year for my half acre and house. So saying, quote, all taxation is theft is highly inaccurate. Look into that mirror. One of the biggest problems if you don't want to be taxed is you. We cannot blame all of life's problems upon this unlawful government, when in reality some of those problems are a direct result of your own actions, or doing nothing at all. I thought that was a very well said point. That was absolutely wrong in a bunch of ways that I'm about to talk about, but he at least articulated it well, and for that I appreciate it. And I think we could have a good conversation if this guy wants to come on the show. So if you're watching, or you know this guy, tell him to come on. It'll be fun. But since we don't have him today, and since these arguments seem to be common, at least amongst Texans that I've talked to especially, I want to address them, especially Texas Libertarians. Especially, you know, like Kathy Glass was the Libertarian nomination for governor like 3 out of the 4 past years, or 3 out of the 4 past cycles or something like that. And, you know, if you watch those debates, the videos are available on this channel. You can see me calling her out on that very clearly on the debate stage for not ascribing to the notion that all taxes are theft. And she holds some of these same positions. Sales tax is a choice, he says. That's the first argument that I want to address and destroy. Sales tax, for instance, is a choice. So because you have the choice to purchase a product from somebody, to purchase a product or whatever, service, whatever, from somebody, and you have the choice, you have the ability to not make that purchase, that makes taxation voluntary. That makes taxation not theft, not coercion, not consent violating. I don't want to just say, well, that's obviously false. I want to actually break it down and tell you why it's false. So it's because the headline is it's because it's a violent interference into the free trade between two peaceful people. So if, you know, me and John wants to sell me a car, and I have some money, and I want to trade him my money for his car. We are both peaceful people. We both own the property that we hold and that we want to trade. And a third party comes along and points a gun at both of us. And he says, okay, you guys can only trade your property for his property if you give me X piece extra. I don't even know how you can make the argument that that's consensual. To say that it's consensual is to not even understand the parties involved in the transaction. It's not two parties. It's party A, peaceful person with property, party B, peaceful person with property that wants to trade with party A, and party C, assholes with guns that by fiat, by the willpower that they alone believe that they have, decide that you have to give them a piece if you decide to trade your property. And if you don't, actual force and violence is visited upon you. I mean, it's clearly non-consensual. That's clearly theft. Like I'm just going to repeat myself. If me and another person are like buying and selling something, and a third person walks up, that's the thief. They're stealing from us just because they impose like rules and they said, well, okay, well, I will, you know, they got us at gunpoint, right? I'll not rob from you guys if you don't do your trade, and I'll walk away. But if you guys do your trade, well, you got to give me some of that money. Gibbs debt. It's theft. It's theft with a stupid rule in between, enforced. The rule comes from the thief. Just because the thief makes a rule or a situation in which case he would decide not to steal doesn't make it not theft. He's still there in violation of the consent of everybody involved. That's the first type. Income tax. You signed up. You signed the contract. I didn't sign anything. And if I did sign something, it was not freely signed. It was signed under coercion. It was signed under threat of force. If you don't, you know, file those taxes, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, jail time for tax evasion. That makes signing whatever the hell I signed defensive. It doesn't mean consensual. Like if somebody points a gun at me and says, sign this contract giving me ownership of your house, and I sign it, well, they get ownership of my house. But if they point a gun at me and say, sign this contract giving me ownership of your house, and I sign the contract, property title does not transfer. Contracts are invalid when force and coercion are involved. And that is income tax. That is, like, if you want to participate in arrangements with other people called employment relationships, like I'm going to do something for you in exchange for money, and third party comes along and demands a piece, that's involuntary. That's coercive. And if I sign an income tax return, that's under duress as well. It's invalid. Doesn't count. It's not binding. It's not rightful. It's just being the victim. Stop victim blaming. Just because this is another thing. I did an episode on this channel, and you can Google for this video. It was tax victim shaming, I think was the name of the video, and I went into this in detail, so I won't do it again here. But there is a certain group of activists that have no problem doing this like tax victim shaming thing, like you are paying your taxes. First of all, that's the biggest. I correct people literally every day of my life on this, it seems. Well, I'm going to pay my taxes. No one pays taxes. Taxes are extorted. They are taken by force. They are taken under duress, under threat of force. No one pays taxes. Taxes are taken. Taxes are extorted. And so what they'll do with this victim shaming stuff is they'll say, well, if you don't design your life in such a way is that you pay as little to no income tax or taxes in general as possible, that you are somehow worthy of shame. You are somehow culpable for the evils that the government then does with your stolen loot, which is absurd. It's absurd victim blaming. If you paid taxes voluntarily, I think you might have a case. But no one does that. No one consensually pays taxes because everyone gets extorted by force. And if there wasn't extortion behind that, 1040 EZ form, the tax form, they literally would not do it. No one would. Or maybe one idiot, whatever. But if there was only one idiot paying taxes, then we wouldn't have a lot of the problems that we do. So I just reject out of hand anybody that does this stupid tax victim shaming stuff. And not only that, but it's shameful to suggest that if I don't manipulate my life and limit my life such that I am extorted less, like it's like a double layer of victimization. Like, not only is the government going to extort me for a large portion of my income and a portion of every single transaction I make with everybody, but I am then expected to then extra double victimize myself by, to avoid being extorted, I'm just going to not get that higher paying job that I really want. I'm just going to not buy that nicer house that I want. I'm just not going to live in that nice city where I would enjoy living. Like, that's just like an additional layer of self-victimization, an additional loss of freedom. I only exist once, and you want me to not only am I extorted, but you want me to choose to like limit myself in extra ways during my brief existence here in the universe. It's a total reversal and misapplication of the culpability of the crime that is tax, tax extortion. I am not culpable for being extorted because that's done non-consensually. I don't consent. All right, just catching up on comments. Been a while since I looked over here. Doesn't matter. Let's see. Artemia Selena says, doesn't matter if one pays voluntarily. The government doesn't care one way or the other. Yeah, what I often say is that the state of consent is unknowable when there's a gun in the room. So, like, if you're threatening somebody and you're telling them to do something or else, the state of their consent becomes an unknowable variable. Because there's threat in existence, and threat by its definition affects free choice, free will. It affects one's decisions and one's actions. The state of their actual consent is unknowable. Even if you asked them and it says, do you consent to this situation? And even if they said yes, you cannot be sure if they're actually telling the truth or if they're just answering differently because there's a gun in the room. Okay. So that is that rant. Oh, is there something else here? Property taxes. I don't think he made an argument on property taxes, but again, it's just another thing. Like, why would I victimize myself extra to live in a smaller house or to live in the middle of the ocean? To if I choose to buy property and then the government chooses to extort me more for the selection that I made, that's still not my fault. I'm still not culpable for that. Stop tax victim blaming. All right. We're not done. We got more. We got more today. That was the taxation thing. Here we go. This is an interesting story. Kind of freaky. Got some quotes in here. Some interesting quotes. The headline is, "The Army can't recruit enough soldiers, and it might start talking to kids as young as 12 to find them." And really, I just want to get to the quotes, but let's briefly run through the highlights on this. High school seniors have traditionally been Army recruiting's most reliable target audience, but leadership is realizing that as military service becomes more and more rare, fewer American youth actually know a soldier or veteran. They'll need to make up that gap by reaching out to younger prospects. It's a matter of behavioral economics, the Army Assistant Secretary for Manpower and Reserve Affairs said Tuesday, with the acknowledgement that most young people have made a mental list of what they might want to be when they grow up by the time they've reached adolescence. Quote, "I would argue that in looking at these generations, we have to begin thinking about how they approach this question of where they will apply their talent. We have to confront this question of, will we wait until they're 17, or will we start talking to them at age 12, 13, 14, 15, when they form the set of things they are thinking about doing with their life? And particularly if their parents or other close family members never served, servants. The option either may not occur to them or could be completely written off. Quote, "If we wait until they're 17 or 18, we will not be the first impression. Others will have made that for us." Other people, gasp, might have given them their first impression of what they want to do with their life or given them their first impression of the military before us. How dare we allow parents to give their children the first impression of the military? We just need to start talking to them at 12 years old. We need to up our indoctrination game so that they just assume, like, as part of the world that, being in the Army is always an option. This goes on. Yeah, that's the point I wanted to make. The only way that they can do this is because we have, I don't want to say we, because of public schools. If your children are in public schools, here's the point that needs to be made. If your children are in public schools, then the impressions that they are given are not under your control. Then the decision of what they're exposed to and what they're told is a priority and what they're told is virtuous and what they're told is servant behavior is not up to you, the parent. It is out of your control. It is in the hands of the government. And what a more twisted... That's not really even twisted. It's straightforward. Of course the government in the government schools is going to glorify government service. Service. As if it's service. It's not service. It's a terrible job where you do terrible things in exchange for stolen money. But I would just point, I mean, I think most of my audience probably already knows this. Most of my audience will be able to hopefully get their kids, keep their kids away from public schools. And there's, of course, some people that are in a bad situation or in a situation in which they don't have a choice, which is rough and maybe a topic for another time. But even for those people, they need to be aware that, you know, the government has plans for programming your children. And, you know, they're not even doing it with any amount of subterfuge. They're just saying, you know, we're seeing a decline in army recruiting. Not so many people are wanting to join the army these days. So we better start getting them younger and younger and propagandizing them. And the only place that they, you know, have access to your children at those ages are in school, in public school. I guess a private school, you'd hopefully at least have the ability to, you know, have a little bit of control in that situation and tell them to walk away with that stuff, to miss you with that stuff. Artemia says, wouldn't it be more efficient if they just took the children at birth? Yeah, I think there's some movies. There's some movies where that happens, right? Rika says, my husband served proudly. My dad was drafted during Vietnam. I went from disliking the military growing up to respecting it after meeting my husband and then back to despising it once I woke up. Interesting. I should bring Rika on the show sometime. Let me know if you want to come on sometime, Rika. It would be fun. Okay, that was that story. Moving on. Look at this. Okay. So, guys, this is a viewer submission. I didn't pick this. We do have a viewer submission form if you would like to submit content or stories or information to the channel. We're pretty backlogged right now, so I can't guarantee that we'll get to anything quickly or even at all, but you know, I'm certainly going to make an effort to do so. This is one of the reasons why we were asking for some producer volunteers to help out. But we have, if you go to disenthrall.me/platforms, there is a link on our page. It might be disenthrall.me, but there's a link on there to our content submission form where you can send us a story that you think is important or that you'd like us to take a look at. This one was a viewer submission by someone that wishes to remain anonymous. I have not really read a great deal of this yet, but I don't want to talk about the trans stuff today, but I think there's a point in here that is worth discussing. Let's dive in. Transplaining is the name of this particular service. I'm dating a man who doesn't know I'm transgender. How and when do I tell him? I'm going to do my best to read this in a professional manner. Welcome to Transplaining. Mick, correspondent Serena Donari's weekly advice column on gender identity. No topic from dating to sex to the process of transitioning itself is off limits. Okay, blah, blah, blah. This person says, I'm a pre-op trans woman. Okay, hold on. I got to run this through my translator. Pre-op trans. This is a biological. This is a biological male that has not had anything modified physically, I believe. Tell me if I'm wrong, chat, please. And I've been dating a guy for a month. Things are getting serious with us, and I know it's time to tell him my secret. But I'm terrified he won't like me anymore. How do I tell him? So the column then says, I want to apologize that you and other girls like us live in a society where we must literally fear for our lives when deciding when and how to disclose our trans identity. The anxiety you're feeling is completely valid. Trans women are so frequently assaulted and murdered after opening up about their trans identities to potential partners. Trans women are frequently assaulted and murdered after opening up about their trans identities to potential partners. Okay. Woo. So we're going to like skim the surface and then grab the important bit out of here. The important bit is that the thing that seems to get missed for 99.9% of the population, gender is mostly apparent. So if I'm talking to somebody, especially if I'm about to begin dating someone, their sex, their gender is apparent. It's assumed. I'm attracted to women, and so by virtue of me beginning the dating process with you, you can assume that I assume that you're a woman. And so to continue to even begin a relationship with somebody, God, this is weird. Who submitted this? I don't even know who submitted this. Anyway, here's the point I wanted to make, and then we're going to move on. So to even begin a relationship with somebody without being upfront, immediately upfront, if there's something non-standard going on, is deceptive from the beginning. We need to be on BitChute. So to make it a month in without talking about this topic is a deal breaker. It's a relationship immediately ender problem. At least for me, it would be, assuming, well, anyway, not just be, it's not even the, this is impossible. Why am I doing this? So it's not even the trans thing that is the deal breaker. It's the dishonesty about something that is so fundamental to all relationships. I'm done. Done. We're moving on. We have another viewer submission. Let's see, where is it? Oh yeah, it's over here. Oh yeah, I think we're done with this. Yeah, we're done. We're done with the We Aren't Libertarians, and we'll save that for later. Okay! Woo! Here's our other viewer submission. And this is actually interesting. We're going to try digging in. It kind of relates back to GD's question from earlier. Is a business property, is the question. Here's his full submission. This is my question. A person can own property, limited resource. Considering the definition own and property, a business can't own property, right? A person can't own a business except for the tools, right? Whew. I'm back in my wheelhouse now. That last one was rough. There can't be a traditional boss or employee dynamic. Otherwise, there would be a hierarchy, which isn't anarcho anything. One hierarchy I don't think people can get away from is a dominance hierarchy, which is just nature. You could have rules that would keep the more dominant personalities in check, I suppose, but that restricts that person's freedom, right? Do businesses then have to be solopreneurs or co-ops? Is there another way to structure one? Just some things I've been noodling on. You're one of my favorite shows, and I'll be donating shortly. Thank you, Charles, a.k.a. Trigger Warning, which he says is a nickname he got from an ex. Well, Charles, thanks for taking the time to write that. Thanks for taking the time to submit that question. I appreciate that this is one of your favorite shows, and I appreciate any donation that you'd like to give. Although I'm a little surprised by your question, if you have been watching our content very long, because there's a few things in here that I've spoken on many times, and I pretty disagree with. So this will be a good discussion, I think. So he says a person can own property, limited resource, considering the definition own and property. A business can't own property, right? Question mark. Well, let's talk about that. What's the definition of own? Well, ownership is the right to exclude somebody from the use of a piece of property. Property is something that is scarce and rivalrous, a resource that is scarce and rivalrous. So, a piece of my phone is a piece of property that only one person can use at a time, and I have ownership of it, meaning that I have the right to exclude everyone else in the world, if I so choose, from the use of my phone. So, a business can't own property, right? Is the question. So now we need to define what a business is, absent a government. Let's see. James Flynn says, check the definition of person in Black Law's dictionary. Everybody makes the mistake of words defined in Webster's dictionary when the legal system uses. Yeah, but I don't consent to the legal system, so Black's Law doesn't. Wait, James, is this the guy that was on the show the last live stream? I don't know. Is this a different guy? Anyway, we're not going to get into that today. So businesses can't own property, right? So a business is outside of the traditional status definition, meaning a business is like an entity registered with the government that is conferred certain protections by the government. The corporate veil is created. The business is regulated as if it were its own sentient existing thing that can survive even the death of its owners. Absent all of that nonsense that I don't consent to. A business is nothing more than a person using their resources in a way so as to provide, products or services to other people voluntarily. And a business could be me by myself. A business could be me and my partner. It could be me and 5 partners that we call ourselves, members of a board, and 1,000 employees. It could be, any group of people voluntarily working together to provide products or services to other people voluntarily. That's how I would define a business. So that's a definition that makes this thing called a business, it's a concept. It's a conceptual thing. It's just, it stands for the association of people. It stands for a group of people working, choosing to work together towards a common goal. Such a thing cannot own property in and of itself. Like the concepts don't own property. So a business in the conceptual sense cannot own property. Only humans can do that. Only sentient, well, not even humans. Let's make it even more universalizable. Only sentient minds can own property. And a concept is not a sentient mind and can't own property. It can't act in the world. It can't exert ownership or even, it doesn't even have a will to own. It doesn't exist. It's just a concept in actual sentient minds. So the owners of a business are the ones that would own property. People are the ones that own property. So certainly multiple people could get together and voluntarily jointly agree to jointly own property. Certainly that's a possibility. Certainly that's doable. Not a problem. But it's still, I would just, if we're going to be philosophically precise, I would say that it's not the business that owns, it's the business owners. The business just stands for the relation of people. They say, next, a person can't own a business except for the tools. Again, I think you have a bunch of people that all own various pieces of property working together. That is what a business is. And I'm including employees in the set of people that I'm talking about when I mention that. So a business, the owner of a business would be the one that probably owns the vast majority of the share of assets needed to run the business. Maybe they own the computers in the building, and they're the ones that, front the money for the supplies necessary to produce the product or service that the business produces. But the employees are also, asset owners in their own way. They're property owners in their own light, working in association with the other people in the business. So they own the car that they use to drive to the office. They own, the money that they use to feed themselves while they're at work. They own the brain that they utilize and they leverage to go about doing their job, working with all the other minds in the business to produce the product or service. So even an employee is a property owner. The business owner owns the property that is usually directly related to actually the function of the business, and the employees own, their body property, their brain property, all the assets needed to, show up to work every day and often do their job. It's a business is just a bunch of property owners working together. And some of the property owners are going to own more of the property, and some of the other property owners are going to own less of the property. And they're going to associate in ways to which they're able to leverage each other's property in a way that's, hopefully profitable for everyone, in which case the customers are served. I'm hoping this is helping. I'm enjoying thinking through this. Next, he says, this is where I'm kind of surprised if he watches this channel at all. He says, there can't be a traditional boss-employee dynamic, otherwise there would be a hierarchy, which isn't anarcho anything. Again, there's a lot of people that it depends on what you mean by hierarchy. If you mean, if you're only talking about an involuntary hierarchy, if you're saying that the traditional boss-employee dynamic is an involuntary hierarchy, I would disagree. Like I said when we talked about this earlier, if there's no force or coercion involved from the people that that you would call the boss in that situation, if there's no force or coercion involved from them, then it's a voluntary arrangement. You don't have to be there. You can leave at any time that you want. The moment, they start doing something that you don't like, or the moment that they stop paying you what you agreed to be paid, the moment any of that, you can walk away. That means there's no coercion. That makes it voluntary. So if when you call something hierarchy, you're referring only to something that's involuntary, then we have a disagreement on your premise right there, right? So, voluntary hierarchy is certainly something that you can have in a voluntarism paradigm, in an anarcho-capitalistic paradigm, an anarchy paradigm. A voluntary hierarchy is just one in which one person says, look, my set of skills is best at, writing code, and your set of skills is best at organizing and managing, the assets of a business and the business relationships with other businesses. And, there's different skill sets involved that are both required for a successful business. You need business owners that can do a million things. CEOs, it's a really hard job with a lot of necessary skills, a job that I really don't ever want because I've seen up close and personal what that's like. I've been at C-level of multiple corporations, the chief technology officer, and so that is pretty much the limit. Like, that job in and of itself is a very different skill set from a manager of a development team, from a developer, from a designer. Like, there's different skill sets at each of those levels, and the people involved agree to work and focus their attention and their brain on that area. And that means that the people at the C level of a company, their skill set is going to be targeted towards making the decisions that will make the business succeed or fail. And the programmer, his focus will be making the decisions that will make his code compile or not. And those two people work together in a way where one makes some decisions for the other. And don't forget, it's kind of like both ways. Like the boss makes some of the decisions for the company, and the coder makes the decisions for the code. And if either of them disagree with how either of them are doing their job at any point, they can walk away. That's voluntary. I would also call that a hierarchy, because you're going to have decisions that filter down on how everybody works together. You don't have to have a hierarchy. You can try doing some commune stuff if you want. I don't see a lot of success in those areas, and I don't see a lot of success from people that are doing that, because there are a couple companies, I don't have any ready for you off the top of my head, but there are a couple companies that have tried to organize in that way, and I'm pretty sure they're no longer in business last time I checked. But yeah, I mean, as long as it's voluntary, it is anarcho anything. He says, one hierarchy I don't think people can get away from is the dominance hierarchy, which is just nature. So this brings up two things. The involuntariness of nature, which is what a lot of left libertarians, anarcho-commies mistake for involuntary hierarchy in a workplace, let's say. So what their logic is that because nature requires them to ingest calories to continue metabolizing food to continue breathing in the universe, that that gives their boss involuntary power over them, because if they want to eat, they need money from a boss. So that's like conferring, it's conferring an involuntary threat from a non-entity. Like nature existence is not a consciousness or a sentient mind that can oppress you. That's just the state of existence. And if the state of existence requires that we eat, and some people are working together in a specific way to generate resources so that they can continue eating, that is not oppressing you as long as you're free to leave. But the fact that if you choose to not work at all and you starve to death, no one is oppressing you but nature, and nature cannot oppress you because it's just it's like a concept that is just existence. And if you want to say that existence is oppressing you, I mean, fine, but good luck doing anything about that. The other thing he said was, I don't think people can get away from is a dominance hierarchy. Now, this kind of goes to Jordan Peterson stuff. And again, like, I watch a lot of Yaron Brook. And I've reached out to Yaron a couple times now, and I haven't got a response yet. He's a really busy guy. I hope I do get him on the show, because I think there's a great debate and conversation there to be had between voluntarism, anarcho-capitalism, and Yaron's objectivism. But I digress. He does have some good things to say in response to a question like this about a dominance hierarchy, in response to Jordan Peterson's work in the area. You know, he says that humans are evolutionarily programmed to compete in this dominance hierarchy, like the crabs, right? You know, if one of the crabs starts crawling out of the bucket, the other ones will try and pull him back into the bucket. And Yaron disagrees with that very much, and he says that the sentient mind that humans possess is a big distinguisher from animals, and that's what allows us to innovate and invent and imagine and to succeed far and above what a mere dominance hierarchy allows for. So I guess I would just, for now, let me just refer you to Yaron's work on that. Maybe look at Yaron Brook's YouTube channel and search for, you know, like Jordan Peterson or dominance hierarchy, those kind of terms. See if you can find his content on that. It's pretty good. Excuse me. So you could have rules that would keep the more dominant personalities in check, I suppose, but that restricts that person's freedom, right? Yeah, so I think I've kind of addressed that already. If you have any more questions on this, let me know. Hop on our Discord server, send us a message there, and maybe we can continue this discussion. So he then says, do businesses then have to be solopreneurs or co-ops? Is there another way to structure one? I think I've kind of already addressed that as well. You can structure it however you want, as long as it's voluntary. You know, you can have a voluntary hierarchy with a boss and you know, a board of directors and managers and middle managers and lowly basement dwelling employees or whatever, if you want, as long as it's voluntary. As long as anybody can walk away at any time, there's no harm there. So I appreciate the user submission, man. That was really, I hope that was really good. What do you guys think in the comments over here? Let's check this out. Yes, Bastiat, I hope I get him on the show. He has not responded yet. Esoteric the Freeze, type of software programmed into machines, applications that allows them to connect to a decentralized cloud network forked off the original. Oh, okay. This is an ongoing conversation. Okay, so we are moving right along here. We already talked about platform use and shaming. The last thing I want to do. So we are kind of getting close to the end here. The end of the live stream, and I've really enjoyed hanging out with you guys. This has been a good one, packed with a lot of good stuff. The last thing that I want to show you is, because again, like, I don't think I just sometimes I don't make content because I assume that, oh, everybody's already seen that, everybody already knows about that. But I find that I'm wrong often when I do that. So I wanted to point out that this exists. Go check out this YouTube channel, Bitcoin and Friends. So far, there's only 2 episodes of this cartoon, but so far both of them are amazing. Well, let me play this and I'll say a quick word about it.
What's his name?
Bitcoin.
And the challenger, the little orange circle that could, Bitcoin!
this Bitcoin.
Dollar coming out angry. Don't look now.
Where am I?
One word, sodomy.
Will somebody throw in the towel?
Oh no. Come on now, get your hands up, B.
Just how much can he handle?
Use the portable pack to teleportability.
That's Vitalik, by the way.
Now the dag.
What's this, folks? He has weapons?
Anyway, so this is a new cartoon being developed. It tells the story of Bitcoin from the perspective of a Bitcoin as a character, Satoshi Nakamoto, Vitalik, some characters that I won't mention because it's a surprise, spoiler, but so far it's really good. Only 2 episodes long. Check the channel out. Not enough people know it exists. It's really good. It's really funny. I want to make sure that everybody's aware. Bitcoin and Friends is the name of the YouTube channel, and the second episode just dropped, and it's really good. So, all right, guys. Anything else in chat? Anything else in chat? Let's see. Esoteric says, Disenthrall, what do you think about the article? Which article? What did I miss? Ah, I see it. One moment. Let's look at the article. Bullet-stopping drones now mine on the Monero network. Oh. Okay. Let's dig into this one. Bullet-stopping drones are now securing the Monero network. Astral AR and Core Scientific announced a partnership that puts mining software on high-power safety drones. Texas-based company specializing in safety drones announced a partnership called Project Palladium. They'll use proprietary software to monetize unused processing power on sophisticated safety drones to secure the Monero blockchain? Is this real? Our mission is to ensure the public safety drone is available to law enforcement agencies, fire departments, and schools nationwide to stop bullets and save lives. How is a drone going to stop a bullet? Now, previously idle hardware can generate revenue in XMR. Hardware can pay for itself over a multi-year period, which enables underfunded sectors to have access to emerging technologies. Not only does this allow law enforcement, fire rescue, and government to benefit from blockchain technologies, but the solution helps self-fund hardware that is otherwise unobtainable due to barrier of entry. Valuable example of the value of proof-of-work blockchains. Wow. I don't even understand the premise. Bullet-stopping drone? I'll have to look into this more. That's very interesting. It is interesting to see cryptocurrency blockchain-based technology being talked about, being put to use to benefit the government. That's something that, you know, I'm sure makes some people cringe for sure. In the same way, like, if let's go ahead and demonetize this entire video from YouTube real quick. But if any of you are familiar with assassination marketplaces, so the concept or the white paper of an assassination marketplace, which is kind of like a GoFundMe for taking out tyrants. So when I heard about this idea, I mean, to a certain degree, it's exciting because, you know, like if, for example, in a free society without, you know, collective defense, you could have, like, if a Kim Jong whatever started threatening, then, you know, very quickly, you know, you could start like a GoFundMe campaign on, you know, an anonymous network allowing, you know, all the people living in America that were being threatened by Kim Jong whatever's nukes to, you know, fund a contract on his head, which would be, whether or not the contract was actually carried out, would be a massive deterrent to him. Like, the point of assassination marketplaces is that, you know, most of the time when you have these massive nation states going to war with each other, the leaders of the nation state that are starting the wars and fighting the wars and making the decision to continue or extend or, commit to war, the leaders are insulated from all the risk, right? They're not out in the trenches fighting. They're not actually in the armed forces overseas, dodging bullets or firing bullets. They're safely in gilded Congress conference rooms, protected by all the people's children serving the military. And these types of marketplaces, remove that insulation from the leaders. So you get people like Kim threatening massive amounts of people. A targeted assassination contract now makes him scared. Now gives him a reason to not threaten a bunch of people. And that's without a massive defensive collectivized defense of a state. And so when I heard about that, like, wow, that's a really interesting thing to think about. And, in that way, it's kind of exciting because it's one possible alternative to requiring, a massive nation state to provide collective defense. But now let's talk about like how that can be misapplied. So if you have such a marketplace, while a massive nation state exists with unlimited, with bottomless pockets and bank accounts, what's to say that they can't participate with the same technology to have other contracts created, except they have, fiat currency that they can devalue as much as necessary to raise the price of the GoFundMe campaigns on whoever they want to whatever dollar amount it needs to make them realized. So this is another interesting example of a technology that you would normally consider defensive and freedom related, that the state can definitely take over and subvert for the evil, right? Okay. Interesting topic. He says, but it ultimately won't be utilized by the state. They can't be regulated. The model of generating cryptocurrency is more what I was talking about. Oh, yeah. It's good stuff. They would have to be plugged in. Otherwise, they'd drain their batteries really fast, obviously. But yeah. Yep. Cool, guys. All right, that is the end of my list for today. Let me re-up my call for volunteers. If you want to contribute to the platform in any of those three capacities, either as a direct contributor, making non-aggression principle compliant content, please inbox us. This is a platform that we do open up to other people from time to time that have good content that they want to share. The second way is as a administrative volunteer to help us line up guests and reach out to people and get things scheduled. Definitely need help in that area. And the third way is in actually producing content, doing research and helping us put together shows so that we can create more content faster. So if you are interested in any of those three positions, please reach out. Discord private message, Facebook private message, however you want to do that is fine. Again, I want to thank our supporters, especially the EG, our massive supporter from today on stream. Dude, today the stream is dedicated to you, certainly. I appreciate your massive contribution. Thanks for doing that. Yeah, and then should I sneak peek the next thing I want to do? We'll sneak peek. I want to try and get with Eric July soon, so we'll see how that goes. But I don't want to say anything more just yet on that. Guys, you're awesome. Thanks for watching.